Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're gonna learn about the common algorithms that are used in pseudocode. So the first one is totaling. Totaling is really simple. It is basically adding a group of values together to give a total. So for totaling, you need to do two important things, which is to initialize a variable to store the total, like total is initialized to 0, and to add the value to the current contents of the total. So total becomes total plus value. Let's look at some examples. Example 1 is totaling the 10 values input by the user. So the user basically inputs 10 values and all of the values that are input are added together to give us a total. So first of all, the total was initialized to 0. For x, we use a for loop over here, 0 to 9. Now because it starts from 0, it means that it's gonna loop 10 times because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can see there are 10 dashes. That means it loops 10 times. So for the first loop, total becomes total plus input, enter a value. So over here, the user or the person enter a value. Let's say the value was 5. So now what happens is the total that was there before, which was 0, it is 0 plus 5 and the new total becomes 5. So our new total is going to be 5. And then next x. So 0 was done. Now we're in loop 1. In loop 1, let's say the user entered a value of 2. Okay, so 5, which was our total, plus 2. And our new total is 7. Our new total is 7. And then in loop 2, let's say the user entered a value of 3. So now 7 plus 3, our new total is 10. And this continues again and again until 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops are done. In total, 10 loops are done. Once that is done, let's just imagine that our final total was 100. Then output total. So 100 is going to be displayed on the user's end. Now let's look at example 2, totaling the values in an array named data array. So now we are going to do items in an array. So there is a value, total value, which is initialized to 0. And then for count, 0 to length, data array minus 1. We have done this kind of statement before also. Basically length data array is going to give you the number of items or the number of values there are in this array. So if there were 5 values or items in this array, then it's going to give you 5 and then minus 1, which gives you 4. So, and at the end, it's going to be 0 to 4. And it's, 0 to 4. So it's going to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to loop 5 times. So total value becomes total value plus data array count. And this count acts as your index. So at data array 0, a number is stored. Let's say it was 7. And then total value was 0, so 0 plus 7. Our new total is 7. And that is there. And this happens again and again and again until all of the values in the array are added together. And that total is output over here, just like in the previous code. Next is counting. Now counting is also really simple. It is working out how many of something there are, or how many values there are. So for counting, you need to initialize a variable to start the count. Count becomes 0, and then add 1 to the count variable each time. So count plus 1. Let's look at an example. Count the number of items the user enters. So count is initialized to 0. There is a variable number which is also initialized to 0. What number is not equal to -1 do? So in this code, basically, if you enter the number -1, your loop just stops and it does not execute. So unless and until you enter -1, you're safe to go. You can continue your loop. So number is input. This is what the user should input. Enter a number, enter -1 to stop. So let's say the user entered 5. Okay, so 5 is stored in this variable, and count becomes count plus 1. So because before count was 0, 0 plus 1, and our new count is 1, 1. And then it loops again and it checks if the number is not equal to -1, 5 is not equal to -1. So it's safe to continue the loop. And it continues again and again and again until -1 is entered. And the count increments each time. Now let's say a safe number was added again. So 1 plus 1, new total is 2. And it continues again. That's it. And then example 2. Count how many numbers in an array are below 10 and how many are more than 20. So we have two variables over here, count below 10, which is initialized to 0, and count above 20, which is also initialized to 0. So we have used a for loop over here for x, 0 to length number array. If number array x is less than 10, then the count below becomes count below plus 1, which basically means that if a number in the array, let's say 5, okay, so if 5 was there in that place, if it was less than 10, then the count below counter, which was 0, is gonna increment by 1. It's gonna become 1, and this is gonna be 1. But if there was a number like, let's say 20, right? That's not gonna work. Sorry, let's take 25. This is not gonna work over here. Then it's gonna go to the next part here. Else if number array x is more than 20. If it is more than 20, 25, it is more than 20, then the count above 20 becomes count above 20 plus 1. So this was 0 before, and then plus 1, it becomes 1. So it depends what number you have in the array. And depending on that, it increases in whichever variable there is. And if next x, it continues until all of the variables in the array have been checked. Next is finding minimum. Now, this is a very interesting code, and it's a bit tricky to understand, but you're gonna do fine. So, minimum is basically finding the smallest value within a set of values. So, the thing you need to do over here is to initialize minimum variable as a large variable. Like minimum should be 9,999. I know it sounds odd because usually minimum should be a small number, but over here we use a very large number, and there's a good reason for this. So as they said, it's you need to find the smallest value within a set of values. Let's say you have 2, 5, and 7 as your set of values, and you want to find the smallest number from your set of values. Now, if you initialize your minimum as, let's say, 0, in that case, you won't be able to find the minimum value in your set of values, because in your set of values, logically, it would be 2, right? So what basically happens in this code is they compare each time. Is 2 less than your minimum value? Is 2 less than 0? No, it's not. And is 5 less than 0? No, it's not. Is 7 less than 0? No, it's not. So the code is going to say that, oh, 0 is the minimum value, but in your set of values, there is no 0. So yeah, if that's why you need to initialize minimum as a very large value. Okay. So you need to compare each value to the minimum variable and then replace if it is less than the current minimum value. So if the number is less than minimum, then the minimum becomes the number. Okay, let's look at an example to make it more clear. Find the smallest number input by the user. So the minimum was input 9,999 and number is 1. Well, number is more than or equal to 1 too. So number is input. It's something that the user should input. Let's say the user input 5. If the number is less than minimum, then check if the number entered is smaller than the current minimum. So they check if number 5 is less than minimum, which is 9,999. If yes, then the new minimum becomes the number. So our new minimum now is the number 5. And if and while and it continues again and again until a value less than 1 is entered. Let's say the next value entered was 2. Okay, it was 2. The new number was 2. Is 2 less than minimum, which was 5? Yes, it is. So our minimum becomes 2 now. And then it loops again. It checks what number is more than or equal to 1. Yes, 2 is more than equal to 1 because our number was 2. And then it continues again. Let's say this time they entered 10. Is 10, which is the new number, less than 2? No, it's not. So 2 still remains as the minimum. And it continues until a value less than 1 is entered. Example 2. Find the smallest number in an array of data. So now we're going to do the same exact thing but in arrays. So they entered minimum value as 999,999. For x 0 to length number array, there should be a -1 over here because they started from 0. If number array x is less than minimum, then so basically the value that is stored at number array x, if it is less than minimum, then the minimum becomes that number array x. So if it were, let's say, 8, if 8 is less than 999,999, then that becomes the minimum, and it is less than 999,999. So our new minimum is 8. And it just continues again. The same exact concept we learned before. Next is maximum. Now, if you have understood minimum, maximum is really easy. It's just the opposite. Instead of initializing a large variable, you will just put a small variable. So over here, minus negative 9,999. And you'll compare each value to the maximum variable and replace if it is more than the current maximum value. Like if number is more than maximum, then the new maximum becomes the number. Let's look at the example. So to find the largest number input by a user, maximum is initialized to negative 9,999, and number is 1. When number is more than or equal to 1, do. Number becomes input. You enter a number or 0 to stop. If number is more than maximum, then maximum becomes the number. End of and word. Okay, let's put in some values. When number, okay, so a number of 15 was entered. So now they check if 15 is more than negative 9,999. Yes, that is true. Our new maximum becomes 15. And then next value that we entered, let's say 10. Now they check, is 10 more than 15? No, it's not. So nothing happens. Our maximum still stays at 15. And over here, find the largest number in an array of data. Maximum is set as -1, which is a small number. For x 0 to length number array, check if the number entered is larger than the current maximum. So if number array x is more than maximum, then the new maximum becomes the number array x. So if it were like 8, as our number array x is more than -1, yes it is, so our new maximum becomes 8. And this just continues. Next is finding average. Average is really simple. It's basically the total is calculated and then divided by the number of items, just like you do in maths. So in this programming coding part, you need to use both the totaling and the counting concept that you have learned earlier. So basically, you initialize count as 0, total as 0, number 1. When number is more than or equal to 1, number is input. Let's say just 5, okay? And the total is total plus number. So 0 plus 5, total is 5. And then count plus 1, 0 plus 1 is 1. So our count is 1. And then it loops again. And at the end of all of it, let's say our total was 500 and our count was 10. Okay? So after all of that, there will be a code entered at the end of the loop, which is gonna look like this. They're gonna give you a variable average, and average is gonna be total divided by count. So what basically happens is total, which was 500, is divided by 10, and the average becomes 50 because 500 divided by 10 is 50. And then you can go further to add output average, and that outputs your average. And we can also do that in example 2. Find the average numbers in an array, same concept. Count is initialized to 0, total is also initialized to 0. For x, 0 to length array number, there should be a -1 because it starts from 1. Total becomes total plus number array x, count becomes count plus 1, increments each time next x, and at the end of all of that, this statement should be added. Average becomes total divided by count and output average.